Hi, Stefan. On that note, we did get a few German RSVPs, so you might want to say just a few words of welcome again, like you did last time, to good effect.
Sure, yes. Also an alle Deutschsprachigen, falls Sie am Ende dieser Präsentation noch irgendwelche Fragen haben sollten, da sind wir gerne bereit oder ich bin auch bereit, die aufs Englische zu übersetzen, wenn Sie das nicht selber ins Englische machen wollen, und dann können wir dann so die Fragen auch dann am Ende stellen. Also viel Spaß jetzt.
Vielen Dank.
Sehr gerne.
So one of the things I believe Stefan said was, although I'm not sure, I believe he said that if you want to ask a question at the end of the meeting in German, that Stefan would be happy to translate it. But if I guess we, out of respect to Mark Baggio, I think we could get started now.
David Jones is being entered the room here, so still a few more, but yeah.
So my name's Dave Hodge, and I'm the president of Zimtu Capital Corp. I coincidentally happen to also be a director of Zinc8, and certainly both myself and Zimtu are very confident in the future of Zinc8. The first Zoom with Zimtu call we had was with Commerce Resources, and we have a number of people that were on that call to listen to Commerce that have returned for this call with Zinc8. But Chris Grove, are you here?
Indeed.
No. Perhaps, Chris, you could just give us a line or two about where Commerce is at since the last Zoom meeting.
I would be very happy to. Thank you very much, Dave. It is my pleasure to say that our shareholders have participated in a new private placement with us. And we are just in the process of closing an oversubscribed financing at 1.2 million, with a significant amount of capital also coming from a new fund out of Toronto. And let me just say that this financing will be transformative for us in allowing us to complete at a minimum the impurity suppression of our acid-grade fluorspar sample for delivery to industry as requested, along with other programs, including, ideally, the restart of the pilot plant at Hazen Research in Colorado. We are very excited by the ongoing developments of the ASHRAM project through provincially and federally funded programs. And we've also just applied for a United States Department of Energy program that is worth $10 million USD. So it's an extremely exciting project, and we're very happy to have this capital, this financing now closed at an oversubscribed position. Thank you.
So thank you, Chris. Perhaps we could get started, and I'd like to introduce the President and CEO of Zinc8. His name is Ron MacDonald, and certainly Zimtu is happy to be able to present him on this Zoom call. Thank you. Ron?
Hey, well, Dave, thanks very much. Really appreciate you guys putting this together. I know it's a big effort, but we really value the support of Zimtu and the confidence that you've put in us by the level of investment that you've made and some of the sacrifices that you've had to make, Dave, to get us here as well. So it's not been an easy, not been an easy trip. So I want to just let you know that we got some of our team members on. We don't have them all on because they're working today and working hard. I want to give a bit of an overview before I get into the team members that are present. I want to talk a little bit about where we're at as a company during COVID. This has not been an easy time for any company, any individual, any families. These are really, really difficult days. But I will tell you that before there was the full lockdown put out by provincial governments here in British Columbia, that we made a decision that that we did not want our employees to be working in enclosed spaces. So we sent them home to work from home, I think maybe a week before the provincial stay-at-home order was in. And I want to report that during that period of time, we kept them working. We actually hired 4 additional people during the lockdown So we're up around 28 people in the office at this point in time. And Simon could report a little bit maybe later when I introduce him. But what I want everybody to know is that we haven't slept on anything. We've applied for some government assistance. If it comes in, that is going to be gravy. If it doesn't, that's fine. We can still accommodate that. But the big story is that we have not lost anybody. Nobody's gotten ill, and we're ahead on all of the projects that we've got. So that is very, very good news. We've adjusted the way that we work, and that's going to continue. The majority of our guys will work from home. I think just over a majority. And we have scheduled all the work that we need to do in the labs. We've expanded our lab space. We've re-equipped all of our offices to respect social distancing. So we're doing what's right by the staff. I just want to say that at the beginning, that the company over the last year has gone through a number of transformations, but we do have a vision for where we're taking this company, and I will get into it. So the company itself, and Mark Baggio is going to talk to this in a bit, the company itself has been getting a huge amount of media. Maybe, Roberto, you can throw up that screen just to talk a little bit about the attention from the media about our technology and our approach to market. And, oh, no, that's not it.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it there. So I don't know, and we've got another person that we're going to introduce, Nancy, who's working for us on the media down in New York. We have gotten an unusual amount of media attention. And why we're getting the attention is that some of the publications that you see here that are industry driven, that are about the technology, see what we've got as transformative in the storage market. So we've been getting, I don't know how many publications have we been in. I would think probably 50, 60, 70 in that area. Of original comment. I do about 3 interviews a week all over the world. And the feedback that we're getting from those interviews and from the contacts has been really helpful for us to understand what our product, what the market sees as what they need and how we can adjust our product to suit that need. So I'm going to introduce a couple of my team members, just so you know. We have got Simon Fan. He's our senior technologist. Wave, Simon, because we're going to call upon you in a minute. We've got Patrick Butler, who's here, who's our IR guy. Wave, Patrick. We got Roberto, who's looking after everything with respect to this broadcast. And we've got Nancy Thompson from down in New York, and Mark Baggio. I think I've covered everybody. So just as an intro, company's doing well. These have been challenging times in the market. We've got a lot of interest in individual investors and groups of investors that want to support our company as we move to product. We have 3 exciting projects underway currently, and Simon will speak to that. We also have a number of different stage negotiations with large global companies with respect to wanting to work with us, wanting to partner with us, and wanting to invest in us. Our pathway to production is we're going to try to accelerate it. It was full production on a commercial level in late 2022. We're looking at ways to make that early in 2022. We're revising our initial full production, first commercialization. We're going to probably double that. The analysis is ongoing. And the reason for that is that the partners, potential partners that we're talking to, tell us that they need a sooner production and they need more of our product. I think we're in good financial shape going forward. We'll need continued support from the market. We're working aggressively with governments, stateside, federal, state, provincial, and federal in Canada, and also actually local down in the United States in some counties. So we're trying to make sure that we get the levels of support from government and the investors so that we meet our production targets in 2022, complete the 3 exciting projects that we've got underway, and take a lead in this very exciting marketplace that we are helping to develop. So long duration, low cost energy storage. has been something that's been sought after for a number of years. Everybody knows lithium-ion batteries. Everybody knows what they do. They're extremely well. They do extremely well, a good job on 4 hours and under. But the big thing is how do you provide long-term economic storage for the marketplace? And the marketplace is segmented into three. One is utilities, and you hear me a lot if you're reading media. I talk a lot about the utilities because it is a gigantic marketplace for us. We're also CNI, or behind the meter, and that is a very, very big market that is developing. And then the other one is microgrids, which have been around for a long period of time. So off those three markets, we think we can play, we think we can lead, we know we can lead, and there is nobody on the price side of it with any other technology other than perhaps pumped hydro, which is a dam, and that's very site specific on the location, that can compete with us on our price targets. It's just not there. So I'll give you an example. At an 8-hour system, the cost per kilowatt hour installed is about $250. One of the unique things about our system is the bigger your system, the more capacity that you add to your system, the cheaper the overall system becomes. And I'll give you an example. Maybe you can throw that up, Roberto. And this one here is pretty exciting for us. This tells the whole story about our market and our technology. And what you will see is vanadium flow. And these numbers are perhaps a little too high for some of these, given the recent downturns in the market. A lot of material is becoming a little cheaper, but it will go back up. Vanadium flow batteries, I love them. I ran a company that was working with Gildemeister and CellQ. The problem that I had, and that they still have, is the cost. The electrolyte is very, very expensive. And so they're working, and I know a number of very good companies working to reduce the cost of the electrolyte and some other improvements. But at this point in time, that's pretty much where they're at on that cost curve. If you look at a lithium-ion battery, when they hit about, they're very good up to 4 hours and under, but when they hit 8 hours, they flatten out. And the reason for that is that they haven't decoupled the capacity or the energy and the power. They haven't done that. We have done that, and that gives us a cost advantage. So for the major battery competitors in the marketplace, you see that as we go forward from 8-hour storage, and I'll go down to 30 hours, it's about $110 per kilowatt hour. That opens up a massive market. What that does for a lot of companies, it allows them to make a decision of either deploying vast amounts, billions, and over the years, trillions of dollars in transmission and distribution upgrades, and it allows them to choose a different option and a more robust, cheaper option, and that would be our technology in the zinc-air battery system that we've got. So this is why we're getting all of the attention. This is why we're getting calls from all over the world. This is why we're exploring partnerships. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Simon. And I want Simon to talk a little bit about our technology and our chemistry and what makes us unique. And so Simon, I'm going to give it over to you.
Thank you, Ron. So Roberto, could you go to the system slide? Yeah, so our system fundamentally have three major components. One is the zinc regenerator. The second one is the storage tank. The third one is the power stack, which is the fuel cell. So if any one of you knows the characteristic of fuel cell is that as long as you provide fuel to the fuel cell, it will output electricity continuously. So there's no limitation of the amount of energy output or energy capacity if you use a fuel cell as the energy storage system. So we share the same advantage as fuel cell system, but what we allow the client to do is to generate fuel on site. And the fuel we have is the zinc. So when you look at the zinc regenerator, we take on any electricity from any renewable source or from any power source, such as grid power, hydropower, wind turbine, or solar panels. And we take on any form of electricity and then feed it to our zinc regenerator to generate the zinc. And then we transfer the zinc from our zinc regenerator to our most inexpensive component, which is a plastic tank. As you see in the second component, which is the storage tank. So as long as you increase the volume of the storage tank, you would have an increased energy capacity to your battery storage system, which means that you can scale economically and is independent of the power output on your fuel cell stack. That's how we decouple energy and power, and how we can achieve the $100 per kilowatt hour when you go to a longer duration. So this is a very high level overview of our technologies. And Ron, do you want me to speak also about the project?
Well, yeah, I think we should do that now. It's flowing really well if you do.
Yeah.
So we've got 3 projects that are underway. As I indicated in my intro, we are on schedule or ahead of schedule on those projects in spite of the last 3 months. And I think that's a real testament to my team. These are the best. This is the best team I've ever worked with. These are all professionals. They've gone through the tough times, and times are still tough, but they're focused on the product and they're focused on the market. So we made the transition from a lab that has been working on this project in this iteration for at least 8 years. Maybe a little bit of background before we go into the projects. Okay, Simon?
Yep.
So the company has, over the last 8 years, been working to develop a different type of zinc-air battery, that's, as I mentioned earlier, but we're operating with 20 patents. So there's a lot of brand new stuff here that the team has developed on intellectual property. So we have 20 patents, we've got 4 patents pending, and we've got 3 patents in process of being written. So during that period of time, before we went public last year, this company was operating behind the curtain of Tech Cominco. So, you know, when we finally did come out, when we got the first couple of major awards, people said, how come we didn't know about this? You know, I was in the business, guys. I was in the business for 14 years. I didn't know that there was any zinc-air battery that was pre-commercialization, more than 3 years or 2 years of commercialization. It's because it was operating as almost a private lab inside Tech Cominco for a number of years. They were funding it because they thought that what the company was developing would create a big new market for zinc. And the fact is that my team over the years have dealt with a lot of problems of dendrites, which are dendrite production, which is kind of a problem with zinc-air batteries. They turn to an advantage, but also the way that the system runs, we don't consume zinc. Zinc is like a catalyst for the entire reaction. So they decided, well, you know, look, times are tough. A couple of years ago, they were going to shut them down. The company was picked up by a junior mining company, spun out, and now we're an independent company. That I think that we're surprising the world that this technology exists as it does today. So we have 3 projects, and the 3 projects are very, very important for us. And so I want maybe Simon to go through the 3 and explain what they are and what our schedules are for completion.
Simon, if I may, before you continue, I just wanted to comment that if you guys have any questions, I'll be attending, we'll be doing a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So you can, if you guys cannot see the chat, you can always send me questions to my email and I'll be reviewing all of them. My email is roberto@zinc8energy.com. So thank you. You can continue, Simon.
Thanks, Roberto. Okay, Simon.
So we have 3 projects in the pipeline for the next 3 years, and we are not limited to 3 projects. These are 3 projects that we have announced, and we're actually in conversation with a lot of partners that maybe we could put in 1 or 2 more projects in next year or 2022, just to allow us to validate certain parameters in the future, and that we could put our system in a very harsh environment. And that would enable us to a huge pipeline, huge market under a sunbelt location around the globe. So Roberto, could you go to the slide that we have for the 3 different projects? So these are the 3 projects that we have announced to the market. the first one is the Surrey House project, which is architecturally significant project. We call it a Surrey House project. It's a 40 kilowatt, 160 kilowatt hour battery system. It's a 4 hours duration, but because we can decouple energy and power, the client only possibly just need to use a 20 kilowatt. So it could be an 8-hour duration battery. It really depends on how the use case is going to be in quarter four this year. We plan to install this battery at the end of the year and commissioning at the beginning of 2021. What this battery allows us to do is to start a case study in a smaller scale and validate our logistic and installation procedures that could enable us to move our battery to New York State for future installation that is in the pipeline. So when you look into the second project, which is the Brooklyn, which is going to be in Brooklyn, New York, there's a 100 kilowatt, 1.5 megawatt hour project. It's a total of 15-hour duration. What the objective is to have this battery connected with the existing cogeneration system in the manufacturing site. So we could see how the efficiency would improve for the manufacturing site, the energy efficiency, energy usage, and also validate the cost saving the owner will get when we combine our battery with the cogeneration system. And this is under the this project is partially funded by NYSERDA, which is a very, which is I think this is a significant government agency that oversee research and development of renewable energies. And we see that the partnership also with Digital Energy allowed us to validate our battery so that we can push our battery to the other facility of 100 cogeneration system. None of them has any battery storage system. So this would open up a C&I market for us after we demonstrate that our battery can work with the cogeneration system. The third significant project, I think is one of the most significant projects that we have, is under the New York Power 40. We are the winner of the New York Power 40 Innovation Challenge. And what it does is allow us to put our system under the NYPA network. And we are talking about a 100 kilowatt, 1 megawatt hour system, possibly installed in upstate New York in one of the industrial plants that is currently using electricity from the New York Power 40. What it is to also validate the long duration aspect of our battery and how we can respond to any power outage, because the plant requires 24-hour operating time. So in case there is any power outage, the power that, or the client that using those plants would have no heat, no electricity. So we need, the batteries very significant for them. And New York Power 40 really want to see how our battery can cope with the plant over there and provide resiliency and provide long duration storage. And so that after this project, New York Power 40 could push us forward for hundreds of other renewable projects, which could happen in New York State. And I think Ron was going to further talk about the future of New York State and other state in US, because it's happening, the renewable energy and the energy storage reform. So I'll pass the time to Ron.
Okay. Simon, thanks so much. I just want to highlight all of these projects are very important. Surrey for sure, it's close to home. It's only a 30-minute drive away. So it's a real real-time in the field development of it. So our technicians are able to go back and forth. If you want to see a real amazing architecture, you should go on and look at online for 75.9 House by Omer or Bell. It won a global architecture award last year. So this is important for us, but it's also not just to build a battery, but this is being written about in architectural magazines. They're going to follow this. So that opens our market. With the New York application, there was over 100 applicants, about 60 qualified. This was a call for a 6-hour, I think, Simon, initially, submissions to demonstrate long duration 6-hour battery, non-lithium, because they're moving away from lithium for a whole bunch of reasons, most of which are obvious to the people that are on here. And when we won that award, it was a bit shocking for me because we're a Canadian company, and this is coming out of a U.S. state, and there were 60 qualified, and we won. So we're really, really pleased that we're able to work with the Power Authority going forward, and we're on track. We haven't slipped at all, and we may actually be able to accelerate that timeline, and Simon is working on that as we speak. Our approach to the market has not been to build a sales team, and I made that change shortly after I took over. To try to build a sales team on a product that has to be launched globally because of its importance and its advanced technology is an overwhelming job for a small company to do. It's not really what we do. So the strategy for growth that we've got is to do it through collaborations with large companies that already have a pipeline. So these two that Simon just talked about are important because it does exactly that. So one of them is a public sector, and that's utility. And NYPA is the most respected and most progressive utility in the U.S. So when NYPA qualifies you for something, you suddenly get qualified by a lot of other people to have a discussion that maybe wouldn't have returned your phone calls. And I can tell you our calls and the emails are coming in fast and furious, and we're pretty happy with it. So there's a pipeline there with NYPA and their partners. This award also got us in with a group called Acre Institute. So we were accepted. It's down at New York University in Brooklyn. They take it's an incubator for high-tech companies in the energy sector. And they take 20 or 22 applicants at a time. And we've applied, and they took us. We're the first Canadian. We're the first market company, a public company. And we are the closest to commercialization of all of their incubators. This is providing us a huge, huge amount of support that we would not otherwise have. And every other day, they help identify people that can help us get into market, help us on the financing side, how we structure a company, how we do partnerships. And that's been very, very positive. So the Acre Institute is really important. We've also we've also formed a U.S. subsidiary, and many of you may have seen that. That's really important because the U.S. is a really, really, really important near market for us. So we set that up. We're located in Brooklyn. We're a U.S. company, wholly owned by the parent company. And we've done that for a bunch of reasons. Number one is we see New York as an early mover on a lot of projects. And we also see that things like Department of Defense in the U.S. and decrees coming from President Trump talking about they want a made in the USA solution for security reasons for storage industry and renewable industry. And we tick off all the boxes. We're already in discussion with the Department of Defense, early days, but they like what we've got and they like a lot of other technologies, but they like the fact that we're engaging upfront and that we're so close to commercialization. So there's huge markets. So the state of New York is important because they set targets. I think of 1 gigabyte of storage, not gigabyte, gigawatt of storage. I said that before, didn't I, on an interview? Gigawatt of storage by 2030. That is an incredibly aggressive target. They've also set a target by 2035 to go off all greenhouse gas emitting generation. So that means there is a massive push over to renewables and storage in that state. But there's a whole bunch of other states, and Simon, you might have it in front of you. Maybe Mark does when he comes on. But there's a number of other states that are being almost as aggressive or as aggressive as New York with these targets. So we see coming out of COVID that there's going to be an accelerated push to develop a lot of these renewables because those targets are there, they're real, and they're not going to be moving. We also know that having a utility as your partner is probably going through COVID and the market's ups and down. It's probably your best partner. Utilities don't shut down in the pandemic. They don't lay people off. They are publicly regulated. People need power, and they get their rates paid. So if anything, a utility in time of economic downturn is many times used by states or provinces as an economic driver. So they can help move the projects along to help in the recovery and getting people back into the workforce. So we've got the stablest partner in the world with them. Over with digital energy to what Simon said, very important for us, very, very important for us because it's private sector. And as Simon said, they've got over 100 projects in their pipeline. They're building out 5 or 10 more, I'm not sure. This is an incredible partner that we've got. He's been in the field for over 22 years. He was one of the first guys to force governments to start putting in legislation to support renewable energy 22 years ago. Bill Cristofaro, he's got an incredible history. We're proud to be his partner, but we're building our company by pipelines, by partnerships. So that's how we see going forward. We're going to keep our lab, we'll accelerate it. We're going to constantly be reimagining our battery, getting efficiencies out of it. But the market that we're going to build is not going to be one unit at a time. This battery is for the big markets. It's for utility, it's for C&I, and it's for the grid. It's for microgrids. So with that, I'm just going to turn it a little bit over to Mark. And Mark, I don't know if you knew I was going to call upon you, but could you just tell a little bit, like without naming names, the types of potential partnerships that we are exploring, and and Roberto could chime in as well, and the number of inquiries from qualified companies that come in on pretty much an everyday basis. Mark?
Yep, no problem. Hi. I can't get into naming names, obviously, but I think Ron's touched on the important aspects of the partnerships that we have announced. But on an almost daily basis, Roberto, Simon, Ron, and I are often having to trade off and split apart because we have been inundated by every major EPC on the planet. Analysis groups, we do a lot of work with analysts that do reporting, and that's really important for us. I guess here I can say it, if you are a subscriber to Frost & Sullivan earlier this week, they announced that we won their Best Practices New Innovation Award. So if you're a subscriber over there, if you want to get that report, go to Frost & Sullivan and you'll see the report they wrote on us and the award they gave us earlier this week. So it's my job, even though there's about 30 of us in total at the lab and at the offices there, it's Roberto, Simon, Ron, and I that sort of look and coordinate all the government agency and gov relations, the incubators, the business associations. We work on the lead development and partnerships, and also we support all the work that Patrick does in investor relations. And there's a lot of work on the market research side. So trying to bring that information, everything that we get from those agencies, from the funding groups, from the analysts, we try to take that back to the team to report back as part of our product development. So we're quite busy. Few people are on this call right now that represent some of the biggest companies in the world that we've been in discussions with. Can't really get into that, but obviously they're building some of the biggest projects in the world. And we have a long history, Ron and I, in working with some of the very big ones from Japan and Korea and China. And Ron had mentioned Gildemeister, that we did work there. So we have a long history with some of those groups. Some of the biggest in the world are now coming. As Simon and Ron mentioned, winning that NIPA award was a game changer for us. That it's a huge validation for the market. They had done an incredibly deep dive, and it was, as you can imagine, some of the biggest heavy hitters that are American wanted that placement and wanted that award. And it was a small Canadian company with the great technology that in the end took that. So we're pretty excited. There is a lot of work. They're going on all hours of the day because of time changes. And we are very excited. There's very good things underway. We can't talk too much about some of those, but we're pretty excited. There's a few major announcements that'll be coming out in the next couple of months, and we're looking forward to that.
Okay, thanks, Mark. I want to just comment on great work that the BizDev team is doing, and so what they're doing is not only presenting us to the market, but they're getting information from the market about what the market wants from us, and then that feeds back into Simon and John McLeod and the team on what is it that the market really needs when they're dealing with long duration. They know our technology. I think we're probably in 15 NDAs right now. Mark, I think probably about that, maybe more. Some I don't know about because Roberto's been doing some. But this is very important for us to make the switch from a product development, from a lab that has had no market interface to one that is focused on product for market is difficult. But we've been lucky because we got some guys. I mean, a lot of times the engineers, I mean, they're very focused on what they do. And we got a lot of PhDs out in the office. But we've also got some guys with PhDs and other degrees on market stuff. So we've been working really hard to ensure that our guys understand that we are now a market company. We have defined what the product is. It will switch a little bit with some feedback from the market. But the reality is we are now a product-driven company. We have deadlines, and they're real deadlines, and we have to meet them. And we have funding requirements that we're going to have to fund to get to market. We've got a responsibility to the shareholders to get to deliver the best product to the market in the nearest period of time. We've got a responsibility to the shareholders if we're developing partnerships to look after their best financial interest as shareholders. And what's the best deal for the shareholder if we're going out? So,
Also,
yeah.
Also, I was going to say before we get to a Q&A session too, one of the other major responsibilities of the BizDev group is to work with Nancy Thompson, who I've worked with many times over the years, who's done an exceptional job for Zinc8 in bringing the world's media to us. So there's a lot of work done there at all hours of the day. And definitely want to thank Nancy for all of her hard work and dedication. She's brought some incredible opportunities to us, and we're really thankful for the work we get to do with her. She's just been fantastic.
Thank you, Mark, and thanks to everybody for the hard work. So we're going to probably go pretty soon over to questions, but I want to underline that we have a pathway to profitability, production and profitability. And these three projects, they're all equally important. We're probably going to try to put another project in, and Simon alluded to it. I think we need to do a demo project, a small one, and we're costing that out now to make sure that we understand the impact of extreme weather conditions on the battery, particularly what you'd call the global sun belt, which is going to see the biggest development over on the solar side in the history of solar development in the next 3 to 5 years. It's going to be billions and billions and billions of dollars. So we're already dealing with people that are going to be making major investments over there and trying to find out if our technology suits their needs. So we're probably going to be making some decisions on that in the next little bit. We've got our pathway. We know where we're going. We're very focused. We're not going to put out news that's BS, because that's not what we're doing. If you look at our decks and our data, it's all footnoted. Thank you, Roberto, because he does most of the research, because we're a real company. We're moving out. We're going to be a manufacturing company, and we're going to be a global manufacturing company. and we're going to have global partners. Now, that is great, but the pathway ahead is going to be tough. We know that, and we're all prepared for that. But we're not going to lose sight of what we're doing, and that is we want to develop the long duration, low cost energy storage market, and we're going to do it globally. When I came here, we were talking about looking at doing something maybe down in New York in the US. We now know that with a product like we've got, that there is a need to have pretty much a global launch on this. And that's why we're talking to people in Africa. That's why we're talking to people in Australia. That's why we're talking to people in South Asia. And that's why we're talking to people, I guess, all over the world and good companies. It will take time to figure out what those partnerships mean. And we're not going to rush them. They've got to be, they've got to be organic. And we want to work with people that have a similar culture to ours. And we want to maintain our integrity on our technology. So we're on our way there. We constantly, Michael is on, we constantly are looking at revising our budgets that they reflect the pathway ahead. As I indicated, we've got, I think, 27 people. We will be hiring more because we have to meet these deadlines. We're looking at manufacturing facilities in a number of different locations and a fabrication facility. Two quick things. One is we are a modular system. This thing was designed for mass production. So are we going to produce the whole thing? No. The team has looked and identified suppliers from different parts of the globe that will, when we're ready, they will work with us in a partnership or under a contract to do individual components. Those components will then be assembled at an assembly plant. And then it will be shipped out to customers. One part of the equation that we didn't mention is well, I did the IP, but one of the major things in the IP, the cathode is really part of our secret sauce to get our costs where they are and our performance where it needs to be. And then on the cathode side, Simon and his team, a couple of years ago, they couldn't find a cathode that gave them the performance that they required. So being smart guys, they developed their own. And so we have a proprietary cathode system, which we are going to continue to manufacture in-house, simply because we can do it and we can make money at it, and there may be a secondary market with other flow-type batteries. So the two things that we're focused on is fulfilling these contracts, going out and finding the right partnerships over the next 6 months to a year, continuing to develop the product, and keep our eye on the prize. We need to be in production in 2022. We're probably going to come in double what we wanted, what we initially thought the market would be able to bear. We'll probably in the next 6 months announce where we're going to go. Mark and I have been shopping this project to various governments, south side and up here in Canada, lots of interest. But we're going to do what's in the best interest. If we can get money, if Sunny will pay us to establish a plant somewhere, we'll take their money because that's better for my shareholders. It's less dilution, and there's interest. There's interest in what we're doing. So we're going to take our time over the next 6 months, and we will be announcing the site and our commissioning date. So just stay tuned on that. We're not ready to do it yet because we still have some work to do. So I guess, guys, I could talk about this forever, but it is 8:47. And if Dave, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I'd just like to make a few comments on the stock market, as that is more my area of expertise. And a little more than 4 months ago, we did a $3 million financing that produced, the $3 million that we're operating with now. It also produced warrants at 15.5 cents. And there was some apprehension by investors about coming into the market until that stock and warrants became free trading. That has happened, and our market did dip down a little bit. But in my opinion, this is kind of the bottom. We're going to move on and upwards from here. We expect to see many of those warrants get exercised, which will put more money in the bank so that Ron and the team can turn this into a money-making operation for you. So I think that's really significant that we passed that. That date was June 10th, and that's now passed. and we can see a lot of upside in the market from here on in, especially with the kind of news flow that we're going to be able to generate. If I could just tell you a story that I find amusing. A month or so ago, Ron phoned me, and I was driving into the office, and Ron was all excited. He was talking about this huge company, and one of the things he said was, the first thing they said was, with the New York Power Authority's endorsement, we want to be part of this deal. And he goes on to explain a bit more about the phone call, and then 2 weeks later, I'm driving into the office again, and Ron phones me. He says, Dave, and he starts telling me this story about this big company, and the first thing they said was, well, the New York Power Authority, if they like the deal, we want to be part of it. I thought, oh no, Ron's losing it. He's telling me the same story over again. And when I pointed that out, Ron said, no, Dave, this is the second big company. They just said the same thing. So the significance of that New York Power Authority coming on board has really turned a corner for Zinc8, in that we have the respect and the attention globally. And as Mark pointed out, certainly Nancy has been part of that. In fact, today she sent out an email that was in Japanese. And fortunately, I was able to read part of it through Google Translate. But I told Nancy that my favorite articles that she gets for us are the ones I can't read, because that tells the investment community that the world is interested in what Zinc8 has to offer. So before we go on to the question period, I'd just like to introduce Patrick Butler again. And Patrick works out of the Zimtu office, but he's here to answer questions either by phone, by email, or you can Skype him. And
or you can come right down to the Zimtu office and say hi.
After this call, Michael Patience, who works for Zimtu, will send out a thank you sort of nice email, but it will include that contact information. And if Butler doesn't know the answer to the question, he will find it for you and satisfy your curiosity. At this point, we can perhaps move on to the question and answer period. So if anybody has any questions, they can either do what Roberto said and send him an email.
Yeah, so I actually have received a couple of questions. Thank you for everyone that submitted questions. And thank you for the Zinc8 members that gave their very insightful comments. So I just want to start, I guess, with the easiest question to answer, which is if the recording of the webinar is going to be shared, and where is it going to be shared? Maybe Michael, you can.
Yes, it will be. I don't know where it will be shared yet. I know that your Zinc8 website has the capability to host videos, I believe. So that would be one logical place where I think people will be able to find it. Okay. But yes, it will be made available.
Okay, so there's a couple of questions that are a bit, they repeated themselves, and I think I'm going to touch on them since they are the most popular among them. A lot of people were asking about the material supply, so and the risks involved in that. I guess they're asking that because of a lot of the news related to lithium ion and the sketchy supply chains regarding cobalt and all these things. Maybe Simon, you can touch on that a little bit more.
I want to touch on it.
Okay, yeah, please.
And the reason I'm doing it is that many years ago, I was doing Mark and I did a project for Dave. It was our first interaction with Dave and with Commerce Resources, and it was on conflict minerals out of the Congo. That little project took us 3 years to complete, and we did it successfully by changing global rules. Mark and I were appointed from the Canadian government to the OECD committee over in Paris, and we worked with the US Senate, we worked with the White House, we worked with the United Nations, and we got international rules changed around that. So we understand the security supply chain issues very, very well. The United States does as well. The United States has a great concern right now about security supply of materials going into renewables. Rare earths, maybe if they invested a bit in the Ashram project, that would go away for them. But they're worried about rare earths. They're worried about, supplies that come from unfriendly countries, that geopolitical risks can mean that they are, they are restricted. And it's a legitimate concern because we saw it when rare earths, when China 10 years ago, I think it is, Dave, when they just cut off Japan that was using 60 or 70% of the rare earths. So this is a real concern. It's now come home to roost. And so for us, the answer is we're your guy. This is if you look at what is in our battery, it's KOH, which is basically fertilizer. It's a salt in a solution. And the other major one is, there's a couple of metals, is zinc. Zinc is one of the most available metals anywhere. It doesn't go up and down. It's dirt cheap, and it can be found all over the place. That is our major. Give you a quick example. Vanadium flow, if it's a large battery, up to 60%, 50, 60, maybe more, of the cost of the battery is in the electrolyte. Zinc is cheap. So in our battery situations, it is under 10. It's probably about 8%. Suffice to say, and then Simon can jump in just very quickly because I know we've got other questions. We don't have any of those issues. We don't have any exotic metals in here. And indeed, everything we have to produce can be supplied within the North American context and most likely too, just within the US context. So Simon, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, Roberto, could you pull up the chemical cost slide?
Yeah, sure.
And I just try to touch on a little bit about the cost, and that could really tie to the energy security. And if you look at the vanadium flow battery, the cost is really tied to the vanadium pentoxide, which is very expensive and is fluctuating, depends on the market conditions. And what we are is on the left, the zinc-air. And the chemical cost, we could go down to about even $10 per kilowatt hour. So that is the the minimum cost that we could get our battery down to. Like if every component that we have is at a cost of 0, this is our lowest dollar per kilowatt hour of our batteries, $10 per kilowatt hour. When you look at lithium-ion battery, which is in the middle of the pack, it's about 50. So some of you may have heard that, okay, in 10 years, lithium-ion batteries going to go down to $100 per kilowatt hour. But in reality, $40 to $50 per kilowatt hour is the absolute minimum. So using the same assumption, if every other component is at 0 cost, we are even better than lithium-ion battery. We are 10, they're at 50, 60. Even after $1 trillion have been put in over the 10, 20 years to do the research and development on lithium-ion battery, the absolute minimum is 50.
Okay.
Great.
Good.
Yeah, thank you guys for participating. I think we're gonna go over a couple of minutes over the time, but there's time for 2 more questions to answer. A lot of people were asking about the power and the energy storage capacity rating of the system. Maybe, I mean, this is pretty flexible for our system, but maybe Simon, can you expand a little bit more on, our modular system, the duration that we're capable of making configurations on, and can you expand a little bit more on that?
Well, because we can decouple energy and power, we are not really limited on the amount of energy that we could provide. We can customize the solution, the energy solution to the client. Like if a client requests 30 hours of duration, we can provide that. 100 hours duration, we can provide that. We just offer a different price point. So that's how decoupling energy and power enable us to be very flexible and allow the client to customize their energy storage system that they ordered from us. And that's how I think why the New York Power Authority likes us and all the other utilities from around the world like us is based on the fact that we can decouple energy and power and go beyond days of storage. We can do weeks of storage.
Right. Yeah, thank you, Simon. I guess the last question that I'm gonna be choosing from all of this, the market. So I could expand a little bit more on that, you guys, if I may. So the principal target market. I want to mention that I think the opportunity that we have is 50%. It's because 50% of the great product that we have, and the other 50% is the timing of the market that we currently have the opportunity. We started developing the technology since 2012, but back in 2012, there was really no energy storage market at all. And right now, the lithium-ion space is already a pretty mature market, but it's a short duration market. The long duration storage market is starting to open right now, and we are looking at it by the validation of many different utilities in the United States, different co-ops that are putting requests for informations, requests for proposals on the long duration storage space. They're asking for new technologies with more than 8 hours, more than 10 hours of storage duration. And they are aware that there's not a lot of technologies out there that are pursuing this market. And that's why what's happening now is they're asking for demo projects. They're asking for, information about, they want to know what technologies are there that can provide this or that can tackle this market, because they are already needing long duration storage. And I would say that the market is any place in the world that wants to be 100% renewable. And those are a lot of parts of the world. I mean, right now, the leading places that are doing that are, you could say, California, New York, Massachusetts recently put out a clean peak energy standard that will incentivize long duration storage a lot. So that opens up the markets for long duration storage. But we're getting a lot of traction as well in Australia, that are very pretty much leading in renewable energy commitments, and as well in Europe and Middle East. So the market is massive. I mean, it's very hard to say a very specific one, but I would say North America, Europe, and Middle East, and including Australia as well, and any customer that has to do with renewable energy developers that live in the wholesale electricity prices and utilities and co-ops are potential clients and customers from us.
I would say just to validate what Roberto's saying, even with all the things that we're trying to coordinate, just this week we're actively developing 3 applications: one for California, one for Schneider Electric, and one for the Rocky Mountain Institute, third derivative. So there are long duration RFIs and analysis is being done. It's really changed in the last year. There just wasn't anything when NYPA put it out for 6 hours plus. That was kind of groundbreaking, and since then there's something comes out almost weekly. So it's been a bit of a game changer. So our timing couldn't be better.
I'm just gonna end this subject by saying when NYPA, I think they really questioned whether or not we were BSing when we said we can do 8 hours, and the challenge was for 6 hours, and the award was for 8 hours, which is interesting. But Simon had told me that he had a discussion with an EPC last week. And at the end of the discussion, he said, I think the guy asked, so you could do 50 and 100 hours? And Simon said, yes. And he said, my God, man, you've got to tell everybody that. Nobody is aware. The 8 to 8 hours is a big deal. We can do 100 hours. And you saw the price curve, the cost curve. It goes down. It will flatten at some point, but it's way down there. So the last thing I want to say is if you look at Zinc8, there's a reason that it's called Zinc8. The guys put it together out at the office. And they come up with a little contest. And Dave lost, by the way. Dave had another name, and he didn't win. And he sulked for a little bit until he heard the story. So the story is good. This is probably a good way to end. Which of you want to tell the Zinc8 story on the name? Because it is really important.
Simon.
Simon, I want you to tell it.
Okay.
Why Zinc8?
So I think there are a total of like 4 reasons why we chose the name Zinc8. First is Zinc8 sounds like when you say it, it's like Zinc8. Zinc8 is a dissolved iron from zinc in KOH. So we really relied on Zinc8 to work in our system to generate zinc. So this is one. Second one is Zinc8. 8 hours is our key. Like our market is 8 hours and beyond. So we use the 8 to tell the market that, okay, if you want anything below 8, talk to the lithium guys. We are not really interested unless you want to pay more. We're welcome. But anything beyond 8 hours, that's our sweet spot. So that's why we use the name 8. And when you flip or rotate the 8 90 degrees, it turns into infinity. That speaks volume. And that's why, and we touch on it a little bit about energy security, because most of our component is plastic and can be made anywhere in the world. Our chemicals are zinc and potash. It's very cheap, inexpensive, and can be supplied in any part of the world. And we use air, oxygen, which is abundant in our atmosphere. So that's why we use the infinity sign or symbol to represent us as well. The last but not least is Zinc8. The 8 is a chemical symbol of oxygen. 8 is a chemical symbol of oxygen. So it's a zinc-air or zinc-oxygen battery or energy storage system. So these are the 4 main reasons why we chose it. And I guess Dave lost because he can't argue with it.
Great, Simon. I don't know, someone wants to wrap up the webinar. I don't know if Ron or Dave.
Yeah.
I think as Zimtu is the host of this meeting, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. We look forward to having Zinc8 on another Zoom with Zimtu call in the near future. So we'll be in touch. We have a couple of other exciting opportunities that Zimtu is supporting. And I see there was a number of people on this call that were also on the commerce call. And we hope to keep that ongoing and bringing information to the investment community via Zoom, particularly in this COVID environment where we're not really doing trade shows. Thank you very much for coming. We'll see you all on the next call.
Great.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Dave and Zimtu.
Thanks, everyone, for coming.